Hi, hello, welcome to SLNS IAS Academy, and my name is Siddesh Kumar, and I am a mentor and faculty here. And today we will be discussing about something which is very important for the people who are appearing in 2026. And most of the people doesn't understand what exactly the weightage of prelims and what exactly the weightage of each of the paper. So in this session, we will be discussing about last 13 years of PYQ, and which is a foundation and which is more like a Bible for each and everybody. And I hope everybody will have the copy of syllabus and the PYQ handy while preparing, and that is a main mantra for this particular exam. And what we are supposed to understand is, so most of the people get succumbed to some of the myths and various myths that are being discussed in the market post the exam. So those who are already cleared this exam and those who got the got into the list, and I hope they are preparing better for this particular exam, and we wish you very best of luck for the exam which is upcoming. And I hope you have a very less time and engaged in your own preparation. And without wasting a time, we will jump into the main this topic of the day. And today we will be discussing about the myths which are being discussed after the exam in the market, and we will analyze the UPSC PYQ from 2013 to 2023, and considering each and every topic's weightage, and based on the weightage we will also understand how it is going to how you can develop your preparation strategies which can help you to clear the 2026 exam without any hurdles. So yes, first of all, we'll understand what exactly the myths which are surrounded and which are being discussed in the market post the exam. Many of the people think that if CSAT is tough for me, it is tough for everyone. So this isn't a case actually. So because the CSAT which founds difficult for me, it is not necessarily difficult for everybody, because everybody will have their own approach to this particular exam, and this particular exam actually gives a level playing field, and in which the various other people and various set of people and various background having people participate in this exam. So the person who is coming from the tech background, and the person who is having a mathematics background, and the person who is come from the science and technology background, and the person who come from the humanity background, so it is not the same level play for both of them. So their approach to this particular exam is totally different, because the toughness of this CSAT paper varies from person to person based on the background of that particular person. So the toughness of this exam to the person who is from the tech background is not the same for the person who is from the humanity background. So now this myth is no more a myth in the market, and yes, the CSAT which is tough for someone will not be tough for everybody. So this we have to understand. And now let us go for the second myth. More questions from the modern history means you must read only spectrum. So this is the one of the biggest mistake that everybody does. So though there were a good number of questions from the modern history this time, and so it was highly dominated, and we got a good number of questions which are directly from the spectrum, and some of the questions directly from the NCERT. So but that doesn't mean that you have to just run behind only spectrum. So spectrum will give you only the the comprehensive understanding of the topic, but for the basic understanding you should always dive into NCERTs. NCERTs will always be a better choice for coverage of any of the subjects, and unless and until you have done the basic NCERTs, so straight away relying only on the modern history spectrum would not make any difference. So thus, so what you are supposed to do is, you should not be, just because that particular subject has a more number of questions, you should not be relying on some single source for the coverage. So you should diversify your coverage based on the demand. So the moment the weightage of that particular subject increases, it should not be like a textbook coverage. It should be more or less like a reverse engineering of the same. So you cannot do the forward study in UPSC actually. So let us understand what exactly the forward study and the reverse engineering here, what I am emphasizing. So forward study is something where people focus on completing the texts, and people focus on completing the books, and they don't consider what is the syllabus, and they don't consider what is the PYQ, and they don't do any other analysis. But what they do is, they look from the very higher angle, and they try to cover the textbooks and the sources which they have gathered. That is what the forward study, and most of the people do that. Nearly 90% of the people. So nearly 90% of the people only focus on completing the textbooks rather completing the syllabus. So syllabus coverage is something which most of the toppers does. So toppers here, what they does is, they usually focus on completing the syllabus by analyzing the PYQ. This is where the reverse engineering technique is being used. So in reverse engineering, what we supposed to do is, so we gather the, like first of all, we get into the syllabus copy, and we understand the syllabus in a thorough manner, and later we get into PYQ, and we analyze the PYQ as much as possible, and based on the demand of the PYQ, and we will understand the weightage of each of the topic, and that topics would be covered in a depth and in a holistic manner by the respective source. So this is what the reverse engineering, you are doing it in a reverse manner. But in the forward study, you are organizingly covering the subjects and the topics and the textbooks chapters. So for example, if you are taking a Lakshmikant, reading from historical background of Indian Constitution to last chapter, there is 83 chapters. People do mug all the 83 chapters. That doesn't mean you are covering the syllabus that is needed. So what you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to complete the syllabus by ensuring that you are hitting the the demand of UPSC rather covering the syllabus. So though you may enrich yourself, though you may become more the strong in that particular subject, but that is not helping you ultimately in the exam. So in terms of for the high success rate, so people do apply the reverse engineering technology these days. So yes, let us go for the third myth. So polity was easy because questions were direct. So yes, this year we got to see around 13 to 14 polity questions which were not so easy, and the difficulty level of the question was varies from medium to bit mediocre question to bit tough question. So here what you are supposed to understand is, so since there were a nearly good number of questions from the polity, so around 4 to 5 questions were really difficult in nature, so which most of the people must have not touched those questions, and which are like a high risky questions, and the rest of the questions were like a mediocre question which people would have made. So polity was easy because the questions were direct. So though the questions were direct from the polity and directly from the text which you follow, Lakshmikant, and some of the questions were again some of the themes repeats every year. For example, fundamental rights in like right to privacy, Article 21 and all, every year you get to see the questions from that particular section. But so just because you found this easy this year, so and you cannot come to a conclusion. So just having a direct, just having to see the direct questions, so you cannot judge a question paper thinking that it is an easy paper. So there were a difficulty in nature, and so you should not be overwhelmed by that, and rather, so what we are supposed to do is, yes, polity was easy, and the questions were, this time the questions were application based. Most of the questions were application based and real situation based, real life incident based and real situation based. So thus the question paper was not so easy. So do not, just because just because most of the content stays relevant, and the most of the the keywords stays relevant and very close to you, it doesn't mean that is easy, and the level of difficulty of the polity has drastically increased. And now let us understand the economy. So this year UPSC surprised everybody by the economic questions that it brought. So most of the questions in the economy section was not so though it was easy, but the people must have felt difficulty in handling this pattern of questions, because UPSC never has never brought the CSAT and essence of CSAT in the paper. So this time what it happened is, so UPSC brought essence of CSAT, and where UPSC made people to calculate sitting in the examination of GS hall, GS paper hall. So usually it doesn't happen. So in the history of UPSC, you get to see very in the least number of chances that you get to see the this type of question. So this is the new trend of UPSC, where UPSC has started bringing some different nature of questions, and that is indeed making you calculate sitting in the GS paper. And rest the questions were very easy in nature, and most of the questions from the NCERT basic understanding of the topics, and having the what do you call, the basic concept clear. So people would suffice to handle this paper, but it doesn't mean that you can answer every question. So only basic concept is not sufficient here. You should also understand the understand the topics in a comprehensive way by covering the the current affairs. And because economy is always known for this current affairs contribution in economy paper every time. So whenever we get to see, so the most of the questions are being asked because they were discussed in the market. So now let us understand, science and technology will be current affairs heavy, no need for theory. Yeah, so many of the people think that science and technology, just covering a current affairs for the science and technology will suffice. So that is a bad approach towards the science and technology part, because science and technology is not done unless until you are having the basics clear. So in order to understand the current affairs better, you should be understanding the basics clear. So unless and until you are not having the good hold on the basics, basics of that particular subject, you cannot clear, and you cannot understand the current affairs better. So in order to understand the current affairs, first and foremost thing that you are supposed to do is you should be having your basics clear from the foundational thing. So the least considered subject of UPSC is science and technology. Most of the people will not consider NCERTs to be covered, but I would say, so NCERTs are very, very necessary even in the science and technology part, and most of the topics and most of the questions are directly being asked from the NCERTs. And I would urge all the people to, along with the current affairs, you should be covering your basics. So because unless and until you cover the basics, and you may not be able to understand the current affairs. So now let us understand what exactly the sixth myth which is in front of us. International relation is irrelevant due to fewer questions. Usually we will have around 7-8 questions every year from the international relations, and but this time there is a dip in international relations questions, and it is surprising. So and yes, UPSC will always surprise us by bringing some differences in many of the subjects here. So though as it did in economy, so where it brought the essence of calculation, and in international relations, so it was highly expected area that this year international relations was highly relevant to the subject, and be it Russia-Ukraine war and Israel-Palestine war. So most of the people expected that yes, the number of questions from the IR might go higher because of the national events or the international events which are happening frequently. But surprisingly, UPSC did not touch that area, and UPSC has different plan, and it surprised you in economy section. So IR, since there were only few questions, you cannot take it for lighter, because IR always have the high relevance in the exam, and as long as you are stay relevant and stay updated with the current affairs, you are covering the IR in a very holistic manner. But just because there are a few questions from the IR part, you cannot take it for the granted. So IR has its own weightage, and so not to take it for lighter. So seventh myth, I can guess my result based on how the exam felt. So yes, many of the people come to conclusion just by giving the exam. So you should not be making this mistake. Just after the exam, you yourself getting succumbed to some assumptions, and thinking that you may make this exam or you may not make this exam. So there is a two perspective towards this particular exam. So what can happen? One thing, like after the exam, you may be in the safer hand, where you may get to clear the exam. In second one, you may be in the corner or you may be in the very border and you may lose from XYZ marks, and so only two situations occurs. And in first situation, obviously the moment you get to clarity, practically thinking that yes, you are given the best, and moving forward and appearing for the mains, and you may need a better understanding of you may need a better time for the mains preparation, and you will jump into that. And those people who are like not so sure about the paper, they usually what they do is they succumb to some sort of disturbance and some sort of what do you call, ailment that we can call. So they go into deep disturbed nature for a couple of days, and they would not bring themselves back on the track, and that would impact their journey very badly. So here what we are supposed to do is, so do not start guessing or make assumption on the basis of result. So UPSC is never like a predictable task. It is always a unpredictable services as it claims to be. And so what we are supposed to do is, so just because you felt exam easier, or just because you felt exam is tougher, do not come to conclusion. So just have a patience and try to come analyze the market given what do you call result, and try to understand the the problems surrounded by the exam, and based on that you can come to the conclusion. So and eighth myth is, I should attempt all the question to clear the prelims. So most of the toppers do not attempt beyond 70 to 80 questions. So they just put a barricade and they play a very safe game by attempting fewer questions, and they don't take that risk of attempting all the questions. So what it clearly states is, most of the people, just because they are sounding some topic relevant, they are just trying to taking that risk of solving the paper. So that doesn't make any difference. So what is needed is, so you have to be very here what matters ultimately is, it is not the number of questions that you are attempting the UPSC prelims matters, and that that gives you result. So what gives you result is, so playing safe and accurately how many number of questions that you are attempting. So it is not the total number of questions that you are attempting in UPSC gives you result. So what gives you result is, so how accurately you are attempting all the questions, that gives you result. So then this myth is clear that just attempting most of the questions will not give you result. And the ninth myth is, UPSC has finally become predictable. It is something which is like always kind of joking part, that people say UPSC is always unpredictable stuff, and the UPSC's acronym is over the time changed into Unpredictable Public Service Commission. But yes, the task is here. UPSC I have maintained that sanctity of not being predictable, and so most of the people find that challenging, because whenever you get prepared for any of the trend that UPSC has brought, so UPSC will surprise you by breaking the trend and bringing a new pattern in their paper. So here what is what you should be clear with, UPSC is never an easy task to get predict, and it is something which is unpredictable, and UPSC will always upheld that sanctity, and which will never give you the chance to predict him. So now let us understand the 10th one, skipping a small topic won't hurt. So most of the people take some topics for granted, and for example, this year most of the most of the questions came from current affairs. So those questions which are like a sports related and awards related, usually we don't get to see the sports in a very frequent manner, but this year we got to see 2 questions from the sports and 1 question from the awards. And so these are the area which are which are being neglected, and which usually get get no attention to that area. But this year has again proved. So from last 4-5 years we get to see that there is a scope for even sports related questions, and even the awards related questions, and UPSC is showing some keen interest towards that area. So skipping any of the small topics thinking that it won't come in the exam, so that might cost you a bigger lesson. So do not take any of the question for granted. So now let us move forward and understand this year 2025 papers weightage. This year UPSC anyway there were a lot of surprises, and people find difficulty and people find easy, and some people find it mediocre to tough question, and the difficulty level of this paper is totally based on the level of preparation that the aspirant has done. So here so I would say that this paper was easy to difficult this year, and not so easy. I would definitely say it is not easy. And yes, now let us understand weightage of the each of the subject that we got to see in this in this year. So let us understand for the history. So this year history we got to see around 12 questions, and most of the questions from the modern and ancient question, and surprisingly we did not get to see art and culture questions high, and we got to own we got to see modern history questions and little section from the medieval. So and here again UPSC surprised us. Every year we get to see Buddhism and Jainism questions, which is like a mandatory questions, but this year for this change UPSC has not included this question, and so the absence of this question is again one of the surprise for UPSC aspirants. And yes, so from IVC there were some questions, and which were again very easy in nature, and especially that bronze dancing girl, so which was directly a very simple in nature question. The answer was hidden in the question itself, and so some questions were very easy in history part, and yes, so we got around 12 questions to deal in history part. And coming to geography, yes, so geography will always have some good weightage every year, and this year we got around 14 questions from the geography section, and out of 14 questions most of the questions are like overlapping questions from environment also, and environment and disaster management, and most of the questions of geography were from the current affairs. So thus so geography is also reserving the good number of weightage. And polity, as I told you, so there were around 14-15 questions. So out of 15 questions, nearly 4 to 5 questions were very difficult in nature actually. So because which were for a change this year, only in the polity section the number of statements for each of the questions were higher in number. So usually what it happens is like for every question there will be 3 statements. So after the new trend of UPSC I am saying. So there will be 3 statements, out of which you will have to find out the right one, and you will mark the correct answer. But this time, so the number of statements was higher in number, and very confusing in nature, and the more the statement and the more difficulty it has become for the aspirants. So yes, polity, 4 to 5 questions of the polity was nevertheless which was indeed a difficult difficult part. So and most of the rest of the questions were directly asked, and for example governor, which was highly discussed in the in the current affairs, so which came in the paper, and the president was there in the paper, and yes, so now let us go into economy part. Economy always every year which will have a good number of questions. This year 21 question was again not surprised. So UPSC did not surprise us by the number of questions, but what it surprises is like the nature of question. So nature of question has literally changed, and and as I told you, so UPSC has brought the essence of calculation in the in the economy. So thus that essence of calculations, while covering the basic NCERTs, you should be thoroughly understanding the each and every tables that has been given with respect to that particular topic. For example, when you cover the GDP, so ensure that in from the NCERTs some of the calculations, some of the basic calculations which have been done will be touched upon. So this year UPSC has made you realize that even tiny simple topics have become more important. So that's why we should not be neglecting even the single tiny topics. So science and technology, yes, every year which will have a good weightage, and this year again 16 questions from the science and technology, which will not surprise us. So every year usually which will fall on between the 16 to 17 or 18 questions from the science and technology, mostly which are from the current affairs. But again, current affairs is not only the source for science and technology, unless and until you do not complete the basic understanding of the NCERT or basic understanding of science and technology, you cannot cover the you cannot understand the current affairs related science and technology. And environment is always which will have around 12 questions in the paper, and this year every year which will be more than 12 questions. Actually, I'm not sticking to one single digit here, so which is never a single digit questions in the UPSC. So environment is some in a section of the paper which will have around 12% of the weightage every year. And IR, yes, as I told you, there is a decrease in number of questions, but probability of appearing in mains is higher. So, and sports and awards, yes, as I told you, so there was 2 sports related questions and 1 question from the awards. So now let us understand in the broader aspect, like what exactly the weightage. So in history, yes, as I told you, 12% of history, whole paper was history, and 14% of whole paper was geography, and 15% was polity, and 21% of economy. So 21%, so which is high number. And yes, the new trend, sports and awards, so 3%, and which is also having the good weightage. So moving forward, so this is the last 13 years of PYQ analysis. So why we should be doing the PYQ analysis is, so unless and until you understand the demand of UPSC by analyzing the pattern of their exam, so you may not be able to deal the exam in a scientific way. So in the traditional method, just covering the syllabus and just covering the respective source that you have gathered and appearing for the exam as very least chances of getting through this exam. So what you are supposed to do is you should be doing the reverse engineering or reverse study. So in reverse study, what you are supposed to do is you just have to first have the good hold on the PYQ and then entering into the coverage of subject. So yes, in case if you see in 2013, since 2013 to 2020, there is no sports related questions. So only in 2016 there was one single question. Apart from that, there was no sports related question. And in 2020 we got to, so 21 we got to see 3 questions, and again this year we got to 3 questions. So the frequency of the sports related questions are not so high, but still, so sports is becoming a bit relevant topic for UPSC. And sports doesn't mean that you should be watching IPL overnight. So what exactly the sports in context of UPSC is, so you are covering the sports which are discussed in the international medium and which is highly relevant for India. For example, Olympic Games or such games which happens in the international forum, not in the local level. So however, this year the Kabaddi was in news, and which has a international relevance, so that becomes important. And chess, obviously, again which was highly discussed this year. So nobody expected that UPSC even touched that area, but yes, this year that was there. And so now understanding the weightage of international relations from last 13 years. So in the total overall weightage of IR in the entire UPSC prelims is only 6%, which is again not less. So every year UPS IR will have some single digit question, and only in 2022 there was around 10 questions, otherwise 9-8 questions, and there is a drastic decrease in number of questions again, but which will reflect, this paper will reflect highly in mains. Yes. So now let us understand the environment. So environment every year will get to see around 17 questions, and this year so again we got to see 17 number of questions surprisingly. So now let us understand weightage of each of the Yeah, for the small correction, this year we got to see around 12 questions from the environment. So, and yes, so every year there will be a double digit question from the environment section, and most of the environment section covers from the current affairs. And as you can see, from 2013 to 2025, so there is a drastic stagnant that the UPSC has maintained in the environment section. Every year 19, 14, 17, 16, 20 questions in 2020 and 18 questions in 2023. And yes, this particular paper and this particular section of GS paper has a very good weightage, and this cannot be taken for granted. And now coming to science and technology. So as I told you, science and technology is again one of the interesting genre in GS paper 1, and in which most of the questions in 2025 16 questions, most of the questions from current affairs, but to deal with those questions you should have the basic understanding. So every year we get to see around 14, 20 and 12, 13 questions, and which is again good paper to good section to cover up. And in economy, yes, as I told you, so every year there will be double digits question, and so which will be more than 15 questions, and I don't think so you can see anywhere less than 15, so except in the 2024 and 2014. So apart from that, every year you have got to see more than 15 questions every year in the economy. So most of the questions from static, and most of the questions from the current affairs, and some of the questions from the very basic understandings of very basics of NCERTs. And now coming to polity, so the overall weightage of the polity in UPSC prelims is 15%, and most of the questions every year we get to see from the same repeated themes, but the questions have been put in different way. And this year there were around 15 questions, and out of 15 questions, around 4 to 5 questions were impossible questions, not impossible, which are difficult in nature question, and the rest of the questions were easy doing. And yes, every year the polity will have its own significance in the paper. And now coming to geography. So geography is a subject where the sense of environment also get overlap in this particular paper, and so the overall weightage of geography is around 12%, and yeah, so overall weightage of the geography is around 12%, and out of 12%, so out of 12%, what we get to see in this particular section of geography is every year there is a 14 question, 15, 16, 18 question, and in 2013 there were 20 questions, and which has significantly game-changing weightage in the UPSC. And in history, so the overall weightage of history in UPSC prelims is 16%, and most of the questions get repeat, and most of the themes get repeat, and yes, which will have its own weightage. So the person who is not having the clarity, or the person who is not having the analysis of the PYQ may find this particular exam difficulty, and I would urge all the people to do the analysis in your own personal way, as well as listen to the classes going forward. So this is the weightage per subject from 2013 to 2025. So 13 years of analysis, and which will give you the clarity on what exactly UPSC is looking for. So here UPSC is always ensuring that there is more than 15% of questions in the prelims, that is from economy section. So nearly 18.8% of weightage has been given to economy, and which is high in number, and then entering into polity, which is again 15.2% of weightage, and environment 16.8% of weightage, and history is again having 16.3% of weightage. So these are the areas which will be your core subjects, and which would definitely contribute bigger. And geography, as always, so there will be more than 12 questions or 13 questions from the paper. So ensure that this weightage has been considered while preparing your exam, and based on the weightage, so you can prioritize your coverage of the syllabus. So most of the people just simply jump into the topics without even having the clarity. So you just not to cover the subject just for the sake of covering it. So cover the subject just for understanding the concepts, and while covering the concept, ensure that that particular concept or the topic has a weightage in the exam. So, yeah. Going forward, let us understand the difficulty level of this year paper. So, like history, as I told you, so the paper was easy to moderate, and the most of the questions were factual and concept based, and so there was some question from the NCERT level, and so from the freedom struggle also there was some good number of questions. And in geography there were around 14 questions, as I told you, and the difficulty level of the question was moderate to difficult, and most of the questions were map based, and some of the questions were conceptual, and for fewer questions there was a deeper understanding required, and we got to see those changes. And difficulty level of polity, as I told you, moderate, and some of the question, as I told you, this is moderate to difficult. I can't say it is moderate, so it is moderate to difficult, and some of the questions were conceptual, some of the questions were situational, as in governor related topic, and so some of the applied politics was also, applied polity was also being asked, so application based questions. And in economy there were 21 questions, and the questions were easy to moderate, and a mix of static and current economy was being asked this year, and the conceptual clarity of course needed to give the clear those questions. And science and technology, the paper was that section was easy to moderate, and the current affairs was linked, and tech development, obviously this is something which is a recurring genre in UPSC. So, and environment, the moderate level, and conceptual and current linked questions were asked regarding biodiversity and some conventions and all. So, now coming to international relations, the question was mostly easy and somewhat moderate to difficult, and most of the questions were map based and conceptual, and some of the questions required the deeper understanding. And sports and awards, has always these days being discussed in the current affairs, so which should not be so difficult, and I would consider that as a moderate. And a diverse range of national and international events was being covered. And yes, this is all about the difficulty level of this particular prelims. And yes, now let us understand the very important program that we are going to launch in SLNSIS Academy. So we are launching UPSC Prelims Test Series 2026, and which is we are calling it as a Varahi test series, and the fee of this particular program was 2,500, and now let us look into the features. And here, so we will cover the 10 textbook test of NCERT, and some standard book test, and monthly current affairs test will be there, and also full length test. And so wherever you are in need, so you will also get mentored, and these course is available both in online and offline. And so we proudly claim that nearly 45 questions in 2025 and 38 questions in 2024 reflected in our UPSC paper 1, and every year we are marking that in the market that we are giving the good number of questions in the paper 1. And again, we are starting the foundation batch. In foundation batch, so our promise to the students is, so if you do not qualify the prelims, so you will get the 100% of the fee return. And so we are making this promise with all commitment and with all guarantee. And those who are aspiring to give exam in 2026, so we welcome you on board. And so we are offering this course for the very reasonable price, and with very qualified mentors and qualified faculties associated with us. And most of the toppers are also working and associated with us in order to frame the programs. And we would be happily introducing this program, and our objective of this particular program is to reach the person who is unable to get onto the board due to the market the stigma, and due to the lack of financial issues, due to the financial issues that they get succumbed to. And we are offering the course at the very reasonable costs. And what we are claiming is, so in case if you are not clearing the prelims, so we will be refunding 100% of the fee that is being promised. So yes, thank you for your attention, and we will meet again in the next session, and we will come up with the very insightful sessions going forward. And this is all now. So, and sum up this session by saying what exactly the importance of PYQ that plays a very crucial role in this particular exam, and ensure that you are done analyzing the PYQ before entering into this preparation. So thank you all, thank you so much, and we'll meet again.